We have Al Hinch telling his story.
And I'm Al Hinch. I give it to you as best I possibly can.
All right.
Before we came on camera, you were asking me about my starting point and when I realized, my gayness or coming out and things like that. I guess my story is pretty much similar to a lot of us, is you have that first experience with either the neighbor or guy in the neighborhood, and that kind of, with me, I didn't think of myself as being gay because I was like 13 or 14, but when I had that experience with him, then it defined who I really am in that sense, and it just kind of evolved from there. When we talk about families and how families may have accepted those types of things, even at this age, I think back over my life and how I walked through my life, in that I can walk into almost any setting, be it social, straight, gay, whatever, and I never think of myself as that gay person in the midst of those people. I didn't feel that way with my family. They never treated me that way. Once I really told them my story, it was like, okay, all we want for you is the best. So I just kind of walked through life with doing what I want to do. And but my father always said, you will do well no matter what life you decide to walk if you have respect for yourself. And I've always kept that. Then going into the military was easy for me. I went there and I did the 4 years there, and I had a purpose for going there though. And the purpose for going into the military was I wanted to go to college, but my family come from a large family. They just didn't have the money. But I had an uncle who was in the Air Force. And when he came home, he was talking about going to college on the GI Bill. And I thought, that's for me. So I went and did the 4 years, came out without a problem. But I do remember them saying very, very, very vividly that one of the quickest ways to get thrown out is to be caught in a homosexual act. And I determined, I'm going to finish this. I don't care if I never get touched, because I want that money to go to school. So I finished it with no problems at all. And then I came out of there and just kind of started my life, When I first came out, I still wasn't sure of what my profession would be. I'm still kind of floundering around. So when I came out of the service, I had about 58 or 59 credit hours from University of Maryland through the Air Force. So I said, okay, I go to UMSL and just kind of find my way. And after I got there, I met these two girls, or two young ladies, I should say, and just kind of started a social with them at lunch or break or something like that, and they were nursing students. And the more they talked about it, the more I became interested in it. I had no reason for thinking I wanted to be a nurse. Nobody in my family was a nurse. I really hadn't been in the hospital. And the more they talked about it, the more I thought, this will be something I really want to do. So that's how I came into being a nurse.
And when was this?
This was in I graduated in 67 as a nurse. And so I was a nurse for 40 plus years before I retired.
Nice.
If I had to do it over again, I would. It was just that enjoyable, and the reason I enjoyed it so much was because each time I went to school for something, whether to get a degree or something like that, there was always room for advancement for me with my career. So I stayed because I was always moving from one point in my career to the next point in my career. So it was very, very, very nice. So that's kind of, in a nutshell, how I got to a certain point of early 20s, late 20s, early 30s. So by this time, I had met this guy, and I'll say the name George Ganaway, and I'm sure a lot of people out there remember his name. But anyway, he was the first person that I met who I lived with. Now, I didn't have any experience with any of that, but I thought, living with somebody in the relationship that we have, how do we balance this? Not talking about sex, but living together as a couple. So I reverted back to my mom and my dad. How did they manage things? How did they treat each other? That's all I had to go on. So that's how I think my first relationship was able to survive, because kind of based it on that, and it worked well for about 19 years. And after that, I was alone for a while, which was fine, you know. Now, just to go back just a little bit, because now I'm coming into the year of 1967 also, and I ran into this guy named Richard. His name was Richard also, and I didn't know anything about bars at all. And he said, "Come on, let's go out with us." And I said, "Where are we going?" He said, "We're going to go to the bar." And I said, "I don't think so." He said, "Well, come on, let's go." So we did, and he took me to the Onyx Room on Grand and Olive, and that was the start of my bar career, if you will, there. And then right up the street from that, right off of Grand and Olive, was another bar, but I can't remember the name, but we would always walk right past that bar because it was predominantly a white bar. And if you went in there, you didn't feel comfortable. First of all, because the music was not what you wanted to hear. And secondly, the dance floor was kind of cleared when we walked in. You know, they kind of got around to the edges, so we didn't stay very long. Went down to the Onyx Room, and if I remember correctly, at the Onyx Room, when we started going in there, the guy who owned it, his name was Richard too. All these Richards in my life, you know? And Floyd was a bartender, so it was a mixture. There was white and black at that time going in there. And the music was right, you know. Whoever was doing the music, it was just a great atmosphere. So that's how I started with the bar scene, another gay bar named Little Caesars. Now, Little Caesars, to me, didn't fit me personally. It was small, it was narrow, and it was very dark, and it was much more of a rowdier crowd, as far as I was concerned, in Little Caesars. And I didn't feel too comfortable in there. But I'll tell you one quick story about Little Caesars, why I didn't really want to go back. Oh, I almost remember his name. But anyway, this lady walked up to me in the bar, and she gave me a drink. And I told her, I said, "Well, thanks." I said, I almost refused it, and I knew that would have been wrong. So I said, "Okay." I said, "Thank you." I said, "Take them one back, and you know that'll be it." She went back and told the guy, "Here's a drink from Al," and he said, "That's it." Next thing I know, there's this guy who's about 4'2", running up to me. "Bitch, who do you think you are, not accepting my drink?" And I thought to myself, you know what? If I get out of this one without having a fight, I won't be back. You know.
Right.
So I went back. Maybe a good friend of mine who lived in Chicago came down, and they had heard about Little Caesars. And I said, "Okay, we'll go." I said, "But I'm not leaving the front door, you know, because I think Little Caesars was one way in and one way out. I can't remember, but I think it was." So that was my trip to Little Caesars.
Coming out in the 60s, in the late 60s when you did, that was also during the time of the Civil Rights Movement. Now, what was that like?
Well, story. I was born and raised in Richmond Heights. Are you familiar with that area out there? Okay. We would see on television in the evenings, we would see what was going on with the Civil Rights Movement coming towards the head in the 60s, 1960. 58, 59, I was a junior in high school. And we would see it on TV, and maybe we'd talk about it a little bit with my parents, you know, but not a whole lot. My world in Richmond Heights was integrated world, if you will. Maplewood High School is where I went to high school. Didn't realize so until after I went into the service, and I'll tell you about that our parents steered our lives so we weren't vulnerable. But still, there was a lot of things still going on in the city, like I didn't realize till way late. Fox Theater was segregated. Sticksbury and Fuller, you couldn't go into certain portions to eat. All those kinds of things. And we weren't aware of that because we had the area called Maplewood up and down Manchester was a business district. And so, you want a pair of shoes or suit or something, you went to Maplewood. And everybody you didn't think of in terms of black and white because I was a kid at the time, And that's why we moved so easily there. I went into the Air Force. My first assignment was in Macon, Georgia, 1960. Freedom Riders had just gone through Macon, Georgia at that time. So when I was in the military, I just gravitated towards what I knew a few months ago in high school. And so I was in a mixed group. My friends were white. Ed Uy, I remember that really well. He was Hawaiian. Jonathan was a WASP. And who was it? Jerry. So it was one black, which was me. It was all mixed group. So we decided to go into town. Caught the bus from the base into town. Got in town, and there was like a Woolworths or something like that. I can't remember which one it was exactly. And the next thing we knew, police were all around us. And they thought we were the last part of the Freedom Riders that had already gone through. Fortunately, we had a military IDs on us. And that's what saved us from going to jail. And we pulled out, we told them, no, we just came in town from the base for the weekend. Not even thinking what we just seen on television, before I left home with all of that. So that was my first experience with it. But, I don't know if I'm blessed in that way or what. I just kind of moved through the world with a real respect for myself, and I didn't think about me being gay or black in that sense of where I can or cannot go. You understand what I'm saying? Now, when I became a nurse, less than 1%, half of 1% were male at that time. So the hospital, when I came home, I graduated, I started working at Lutheran Hospital. Now, I'm sure you don't remember that hospital. Mm-hmm. You do?
Mm-hmm. On Delmar.
No, that's St. Luke's.
Lutheran was...
That was St. Luke's on Delmar.
Where was Lutheran?
Lutheran was on Jefferson and Miami.
Oh, down on the south side.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. I go there, and when I go there, and she's giving me the tour of the hospital, and it never dawned on me at that time. Usually when you go into a hospital setting, you're going to see blacks or someone of color, at least, in the areas of domestic work, whether it be housekeeping, kitchen, something like that. And when I walked through there, didn't see one. That didn't even dawn on me, that there was none there. So I'm there for a few months, and I'm going through the hallway, and someone says, "Hey, Tom." And right away I thought, uh-oh, somebody's trying to be racial here, calling me Uncle Tom. And I didn't say anything, I moved on. And then I noticed people were calling me Tom. Well, come to find out, there was a guy in X-ray whose name was Tom. Mm-hmm. And we were both tall, okay. And black. Mm-hmm. And they had never seen another one. And from a distance, they said, "Oh, that's Tom going down the hallway." So I finally said, "Oh, God, thank God, But I tell you, the worst experience I've ever had being gay was from another black. I was there, by this time I had moved up into management, so I was at least a head nurse. And they started bringing in a lot of, at that time, blacks. Once you crossed Shodo and Jefferson, you didn't see any blacks. It was all white in the area over there at the time. And then blacks are coming in the areas of housekeeping, and then some other nurses were coming on. And the black guys, they made this, now the whites may have done it too, they made the assumption because I am a nurse, I have to be gay. Now the whites may have thought the same thing too, which is fine. they decided, I can't remember the girl's name now, but they decided they're going to find out for sure. So they had one of their friends in housekeeping come up to me. I knew her, well enough to be social with her. And she came up to me and she asked me if there was something going on and she needed a date. And asked me if I would go with her. And I told her, I said, well, I don't think so. I said, I don't really know you other than here at work, and I don't know if that's something I really would want to do. She said, okay. So not too long after that, here she comes again. And there was a party, another party was going on, wants to know if I would go to this party with her. And I said, no, I said, I have to ask you. I said, it's kind of odd. You don't know me and I don't know you really, because you don't even work on my floor. I see you maybe in the cafeteria. Why is it that you keep asking me to go to these things with you? She said, I'm going to be perfectly honest with you. And I said, well, I hope that you will be. She said, she named different guys in housekeeping, all African Americans. She said, they've been whispering about you for months being gay. They can't quite.
Did they call you gay then, or was it funny or queer?
No, that's a good question, but I think the word back then in the black community was sissy.
There you go.
That's what it was. I'm so used to saying gay,
Yes.
But no, she said they want to know, if you were sissy. Sissy and punk were the two words they used back then.
Correct.
And she wanted to know, they were all taking bets on whether you're gay or not, or sissy or not, and if you'll go out with me. And I said, okay. I know where to put them. And that's in their place. Leave them alone right there. But what happened was, now I'm the only black manager in the whole hospital. They start having problems with either their supervisor or the duties or whatever, maybe. Now, not in my area now, different area. They began to come to me and say, this is what's going on, and wondering if you could help me out. I said, well, first of all, it's not my area. It would be unethical for me to come in and try to do something for you in another department. Well, you're black. I said, that's true. I said, I mean, that's no secret. It's been this way all my life, But what I told them was this, and I don't know if you've experienced it or not. When you have a problem and it's a mixed group problem, as soon as you say it's racial, it changes the whole tone. It's like, oh, well, I can't even talk to you because it's a race thing already. You're playing the race card. And I would always tell them, I say, if it's a racial incident, you make sure you have your P's and Q's in order. I said, because it can backfire on you easily. You could become a noise maker, troublemaker, anything like that. I said, but if it's racial, you need to address it head on, but make sure that what you're saying is correct, because otherwise they won't listen to you. It goes right away in one ear and out the other. And I've learned it from experience with them, So you got to really, really be careful. But then after that, of course, they want to be my friend now, okay?
What do you see the difference in back those days and today?
And this is from afar because, like I said, with Richard, we did the house parties, maybe. We traveled a lot, and we had friends in Chicago up and down with them, so that took pretty much our social life. Richard he got over that bar scene real quickly at an early age, so it wasn't too much of a bar scene, but from talking to other friends and things, they tell me that really a difference from then and now is where, okay, back then, when I was going through, you meet somebody and a one-night stand was nothing. I mean, it's just the way it was, and you did that and you moved on. Also, at the same time, you were trying to looking for that person that maybe you could really gel with and be with for a while. And what they tell me now is that the group, most of them whatever they smoke or drink or sniff or whatever, you know, that if they could be best friends and they could do what they're doing, and if they decide to reach over to their friend and have sex, then they do that and they go their way, you know. Okay. And then this is what they tell me. Now I don't know for sure. Okay, mm-hmm. They said that's just the way it is for a lot of them now. You know, mm-hmm. It's like, okay, you happen to be here, so let's do it.
So 2 questions. First one, what would you want to say to someone that's young, that's watching this story? What would you like for their takeaway from this to be, your story?
If there's anything I'd like for them to take away, is to always have respect for themselves, number one. And if you have respect for yourself, other people will recognize it and give it back to you. That's so, so important. And I think with that in mind, you can build a healthy lifestyle, whether you're single, attached, or you want to just be out there running the streets. You know, it's so important. You've got to have that. Now that may, when I say run the street, it may contradict having respect for yourself, but it does not if you think about it. You know, you can still have respect for yourself and run the streets if you choose to. It's all in how you do it.
Why is this important? Our story is important to be told.
Well, I think it's important to be told because the question you asked a moment ago, the difference in 60s and the 2020s, is that there's a certain, like I said, I'm not out there in the community right now, but kind of what I see from afar, I think that there could be a little more, I hate to go back to the word respect, but more respect for themselves in the community right now and others that we had a little bit more of back in the 60s and 70s. And I know the environment changes all that too, but I think that's really important.
Well, all right. Well, I want to say thank you.
Sure.
For sharing your story, and we'll be chatting with you again.
Okay.
And here we go. Let's have a toast.
No, either way, I like your jewelry.
Thank you.
It's good. It looks good on you.
Oh, thank you. So, yeah, so that's perfect.